to China, Shanghai, Taiwan in the motherland. So this is our Airbnb. There's a lot of natural plants, which is kind of cool. Here's the view, big windows. These are the kind of windows you would pay so much money for in New York. So much light, look at it, it's like half floor to ceiling. And then we have our table here, has more plants, bookcases, bed. It's kind of a small space. There's Jackie, but it's very cute. And then of course the kitchen and bathroom are outside. But it's perfect for what we need because we're only going to be here for 2.5 days. Hello! Just arrived day 1 in Shanghai. We got here around 5 p.m. And then immediately, as soon as we were going to go head to the taxi area, we were almost scammed on our trip. So we were walking to the escalator and then some man comes up to us and he's like, oh, you're looking for a taxi, and he was blocking our way to the escalator. So we were like, yeah, we are going to the taxi area. And he had a little pin that said airport staff, and so we were like, oh, this seems legit. So we followed him to where he supposedly said all the taxis were, but we noticed a sign that said taxis was in a different direction, and there was a huge line of people, and he was like, no, like it's this way. So he leads us to this like quiet parking lot, and there are these people there, and then he was pointing at different cabs, but they all didn't have like licensed taxi marks, and we're like, oh, this doesn't seem right. And he's like, oh, it'll be $3.50 to get to your location. And then so our Airbnb host quoted us, it'll be like, oh, it's probably about 200 RMB to get from the airport to the Airbnb location. So I was like, $3.50, that's like way too much. So we're like, 200. And then he's like, no, 300. And we're like, okay, so he's bargaining, which is kind of weird because I thought taxis were metered. And then we're like, no. And he's like, oh, 250. We're like, no, 200. And then finally he's like, okay, fine, 200, but we're like, no, it's too late, we're gonna leave, because we already felt the situation was super sketchy. And so we were leaving, and he's like, no, like 200's okay, like come with us. And we're like, no, thank you. And they start following us to the airport, and we're like, oh my. And then he's like, 200's fine, and we're like, no, thank you. And then eventually we saw he just went back to the escalator to get more foreigners, supposedly, to scam. But then we went on to the regular taxi line, and then we just got our regular taxi, and it was actually less than 200 to our Airbnb location, so that was good. But that was our first few minutes in Shanghai, almost being scammed. So for foreigners, if you're listening to this, don't do what we almost did. Trust your gut. Don't follow sketchy signs or sketchy people. And then, so most taxi drivers don't speak English, so we had to deal with that. But if you write down everything you need to know or where you're going, they can read it. And a tip would be to get it written in the Chinese characters because they can read that more than the pinyin, which we discovered. And then after that, we headed to our Airbnb, and it's super cute. That's where I am right now. Rested for a bit in the air conditioning because it's very humid in Shanghai. And then we headed to the Bund, which is a very famous spot, waterfront. Waterfront of like the tall Shanghai buildings. Looks a little bit like Times Square at night. It's like very lit up, and there's different kinds of ads that get placed and a lot of colorful lit boats that pass by, so that's a pretty cool experience. Got some good pictures, did some boomerangs, helped other people take some pictures, and then we went to eat at a restaurant. It was a restaurant near the Bund, so it was probably a tourist trap, but it was supposed to be Shanghai food, Shanghai grandmother food, I think it was what it was called. And then we ordered some vegetables. It was delicious. And it was good for just because we got off such a long, like a 13-hour flight, and then like 2 more layovers before that. So get some vegetables, we got some mushrooms, spinach, and then we got some noodles, and it kind of just cleared our system. And now we're back at the Airbnb and just kind of relaxing till our day tomorrow.